Welcome to AI in Learning, a series that unites today's most forward-thinking voices in learning and artificial intelligence. Together, we'll explore not just what's changing, but what it means for how people learn, grow, and stay relevant. Each conversation goes beyond the trends and buzzwords to understand real shifts that are happening in skills, tools, and mindsets that are shaping the future of learning at work.
Welcome to Adobe's series on AI and learning. And today we have a great guest. We have Josh Cavalier. He has 30 years of experience in AI. He is the founder of joshcavalier.ai, Brain Power Show, the Brain Power Show. And also he has a new book out, and I'm going to give a plug for it right here. It's Applying AI in Learning and Development. It's a practical guide to how to really improve your performance in L&D with AI. So thanks for being with us here. So I wanted to start out with a question that I think is on a lot of people's mind. There's a lot of hype around AI, right? And so the question is AI overhyped in some areas? And do you think it's maybe in L&D, is it underhyped in some areas?
Yeah. Well, I think just as far as like it being overhyped, you definitely have a lot of corporations who are looking at reducing the bottom line and reducing headcount and thinking that AI is going to be a replacement for humans. Some companies are attempting to do that. They have tried it. They've had to bring employees back in, but we have seen some recent numbers to where headcounts are being reduced 10 to 13 to even 14, 15% across the board in some industries. So there is something happening. There definitely is something going on, especially with entry-level roles. So what was once, I believe, overhyped, we're just now getting a portion of that reality starting to sink in.
Yeah.
And so in regards to talent management, I think that there is going to be some bumpy roads with new hire training or management trying to determine what's going to happen with these roles that are entry-level roles where AI can come in and do the work. So yeah, a little bit of overhype with that currently. As things that are underhyped, I think that in regards to data and analytics, there's not enough talk around what the possibilities are, especially when you're talking about like persona data or skill information about what's happening with the business and how learning and development can take that information and apply it so that there is velocity in what's happening with learning experiences at the rate of business, right? So I think there definitely needs to be more talk around leveraging artificial intelligence for data and analytics. And there is a barrier there because many organizations just don't have their data act together. And many organizations are working on that so that the business has access to data across the whole entire organization. And even when L&D had access to it, most departments don't even know what to do with it properly. So hopefully AI can, lend some insight in regards to either predictive analytics and what may be needed on the front lines or to associates, and just being able to go ahead and look at patterns and understand exactly what's truly happening and how they can react properly.
And I think, I think L&D doesn't understand its role in data analytics. And I think you coined a term, and I'm going to make sure I get this right, but I think you coined this term called human machine performance analyst.
Right.
What does that mean? And what does it mean to L&D?
So, when I was writing the book, I thought about, there's a couple different things that are going on. One is this new reality of humans working with machines. And, for my whole entire career, it was always about human performance. Well, it's not the case anymore. You actually have humans and machines working together. What is the net performance there?
Yeah.
What does that look like? And so that is where human machine came from. Performance analyst was very strategic. Like I had a reason to put that in there. Everybody wants to reframe learning and development. Well, I'm like, well, why don't we call it something different to where it really touches upon the performance consulting aspect of the role? Because if you think about how AI is impacting content, right? And content is like crashing down as far as the amount of time it takes to create that. The new reality is L&D is going to live on the edges. What I mean by that is it's going to work closely with the business so that it understands through data and analytics, like what is happening with the business in real time, and then being able to orchestrate, not create, orchestrate learning experiences at scale. It's hyper personalized. And then off the back end, are we hitting the mark? Like, if we go ahead and we scale out solutions, do we have measurements that indicate, yes, we had an impact on the business or not? And then it cycles through. And so that performance analyst part speaks towards the data. It speaks towards the edges of the process as opposed to the middle where the content creation was at.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, there's a great opportunity for L&D leaders to elevate their position in an organization because now they can start providing strategic answers to problems. So they can look at the Monday morning problems in an organization, they can go to the lines of business, they can identify these problems, right? And start with the problem itself first, right? Create the solution and then measure it, like you said.
Yeah, and I think it's being in a position of being proactive as opposed to reactive. And we've had all these constraints over the years in regards to like, capital into time. And now with AI, we're able to go ahead and produce solutions at scale rapidly, and it just shows up different,
Right.
right? And there's a maturation to that, and it keeps showing up differently. Like every quarter, there's some kind of new breakthrough as far as a learning experience that we haven't been able to incorporate into our solution set, like being able to have a bidirectional avatar.
Uh-huh. What's that?
Right. But so you can actually have as like a synthetic human
Mhm.
that has some type of knowledge base associated with it, and a person can go in and get coaching from it or have a simulated conversation, and it's in real time, and it's all based upon, sources of truth. We haven't had that. I mean, it's always a custom type solution that, we've seen similar type things, but not at scale.
Right, right.
Mhm.
So, a lot of L&D people are at the earliest stages of this, and a big part of it is prompting, right? And you have a prompt library of, I don't know, was it 250 prompts out there, right? So you know what works and what doesn't work. And so, I think a lot of people learn through trial and error. Maybe you can help people figure out, cut to the chase, what should you have in a prompt and what should you not have in a prompt in order to get the result you want?
Yeah. So it depends upon the task. It really depends upon what you're trying to accomplish and experiment. I mean, I think that there's room to and give yourself grace to go in and understand, like, how is this happening? How I'm entering words and words are coming back. Like, do you know what's happening in the back end?
Yeah.
I think that's a start. And once you understand that it's all based on probability, you're just playing a game. You're essentially going in, you're saying, okay, out of these 175,000 English words that are high frequency words, I need a certain pattern to come back that's actionable. How do I do that? How do I structure my words so I'm getting a result back that is highly actionable and maybe only needs 5% of my input to actually review and go, yes, we can put this in production. It's a learning objective. It's a video script. It's multiple choice questions. Go. And it is a process, it's a maturation process to start learning patterns that go into prompts that give you those better results back.
Right.
For instance, I can go in and say, well, I need 80 multiple choice questions on ESG, like environment, social governance. And it's going to go ahead and give me those 80 multiple choice questions, but it just shows up different if I say, I need 80 multiple choice questions with 2 distractors, indicate the correct answer, and also describe why it's the correct answer. Well, now I'm going ahead and I'm guiding the model to give me a much more actionable result. And so there is a maturation process that happens when people begin to experiment, but then they start putting in these tactics that give them gold coming back. But it takes time, and it takes the effort of putting in the practice and understanding that when models change and shift over time, how your prompts have to shift and change over time. And a good example of that would be like a reasoning model. We never had reasoning models before, like when ChatGPT first came out. So you would tell the model, take a deep breath and think about this step by step. And that would force it to actually go ahead and, we call it inference, where it actually will sit and think about it a little bit. But now we have reasoning models that do it automatically. So, what task are you attempting to perform? Are you building some type of report, or do you need some type of video script? And so each and every type of output that's actionable has a structure or a way that you go about the prompt. And again, that does take time to build in those skills.
I remember, and one of the things that you recommended, and I use this all the time now, is adding to the beginning of your prompt, act like an instructional designer. That's right. And do this, or act like whatever it happens to be, act like a sales rep or whatever it happens to be. And that radically changed the
Right.
solution.
Yeah. And it's fascinating because when you just use a simple tactic like that, and so why does that work? Like, why do I go ahead and I put a role in there? Well, just a simple practice of identifying a professional or your role in the prompt, it then increases the probability of any and all words based on instructional design to come back into play. And that's the key is I'm using highly valuable words that I know the model is then going to go ahead and respond and give back. That's the reason why we need sources of truth. Whether you're uploading a document or using advanced techniques like retrieval augmented generation, where you're building your own like vector database and it contains sources of truth and the model hits it and brings back those sources of truth. There's all these techniques to, again, at the end of the day, be actionable, to have this content to where it doesn't need that much review and you feel confident in the response coming back.
Right. AI, I think a lot of people, like I said, I think they're at the earliest kind of the trinket stage of it, but your book talks about how this can position L&D from the course delivery and the content development to real performance management and performance enablement.
Correct.
And so how does it do that in practice? What do you think that
Yeah.
people?
So, when I think about um, the L&D function as a whole, it's a cost center and it always has been a cost center, but we can flip the script and be able to, going to the work of like Jack and Patty Phillips and their work as, uh, going beyond and showing that return on investment or Kirkpatrick and the levels there. We now have the ability to go in and premeditate all these various learning experiences at scale, at real time in the flow of work or in business, and have measurement all along the way. It's completely viable because now with agents or agentic type capabilities, if there's a new reality that we have, let's say a tariff, okay? Tariffs make frontline salespeople show up differently on a Monday, right? So here's this new reality. We can't get hold of a product. We have to go ahead and sell a customer on product B because product A costs 30% more, whatever the case is. They just have to show up different. So over the course of a weekend, you can have agents activate this new product by going in and creating a podcast they can listen to. And then you can get analytics like, okay, did they listen to the podcast? And then they get a quiz about the podcast and about the product. And then they go ahead and have a bi-directional coach that will then go ahead and spin up a couple scenarios that that particular customer may ask questions about. And then you have numbers that come back as far as end of week sales. And then did all of those actions result into increased sales in product B?
Right.
And if they didn't, what do we adjust? And then we reconstitute it and we run it back through that whole cycle again at the speed of business.
Yeah.
And that is the opportunity. And the book gets into it about all these different, to make that a reality, all these different points that need to be aligned to get all of that to work together. And it is a lot, but it is a reality today. Like if organizations have their act together in regards to data, they can create that reality.
Yeah, and they need to conjoin the data sources too, right? I think a lot of people in L&D don't realize that they have to go outside of their walls and they have to find the sales data. They have to find the NPS scores. They have to, from customer satisfaction, they need to find what's going on with support, right? And what's going on the help desk. That's the only way you do that. You have to conjoin those data sources, right? Like you just said. So if you can say that I created these courses, I believe I got a performance result out of it. Let's test that against the sales data. Did those sellers really sell more?
That's right. And so we are seeing out in the marketplace, there are very few organizations that have all their data connected together, all of it, not just lakes or not separated, different entities or lines of business or functions. It is all connected. Those organizations are rapidly moving forward with new ways of thinking about talent management and upskilling and reskilling in real time because they have the numbers, they have the reality right there in front of them. And they're able to then go ahead and create those personalized learning paths to actually go ahead and create those custom learning experiences at scale in real time. But the only way that you do that is when you have a glimpse at all those sources of truth.
Right? Yeah, and it's perfectly personalized as well. So that's the beauty out of it. If you have, but you need the data to be able to personalize that. Right. And in your book, you wrote that you foresee the AI enabling a golden age for human performance. And I'm going to, read from the book here. It says, allowing for hyper-personalized learning experience at scale. that addresses the need. So how do tools and platforms like Adobe Learning Manager make that happen?
Yeah. Getting back to the data, there's an opportunity for like Adobe Learning Manager and similar platforms to take advantage of custom learning paths and being able to change those realities for those associates in real time. That's a massive benefit to management in a reality where artificial intelligence is going to go ahead and start chipping away at tasks and your role. And you may walk in one week and there could be some kind of change that happens to a large corporate system. And you look at it and go, I don't have to do those tasks anymore. AI is taking that for me. Well, that just reduces your role by 20%. What are you going to do with the organization with that additional 20% of your time? And so being able to have a platform like Adobe, Learning Manager to go in and reconstitute a training path in real time so that the associate shows up differently the following week after those agents are now doing that portion of their work. Massive advantages.
And it's not just personalization, it's really performance management as well. Because I mean, some of the new features coming out in Adobe Learning Manager are going to allow people to actually interact with that data
Yes.
to prove that they actually have those capabilities.
And yes, and that is critical. I mean, you can go ahead and you can build all these programmings up, but if you don't have validation of those skills, and how does it show up within the system, and then what does that mean for especially new hires that are coming on board, when you're building programs for them, you have that flexibility now, and that's what businesses need now. They need that adaptability, they need that flexibility, and platforms like that enable it.
One of the other things about a tool like Adobe Learning Manager is, it's built on trust. I mean, the Adobe company is built on trust. And how do you feel about organizations that stick within their walls? Like if you're staying within Adobe Learning Manager, you're not going to really have as many hallucinations. You're not going to be, your data is not going to be disrupted by something that may not be what the organization wants you to see. I think that there's an opportunity there.
Well, this whole, if you take a look at AI as a whole, it's all about risk mitigation.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. And if we have platforms and tools that can mitigate risk quickly and it's validated, that means you're actionable. And so much of the drag that's happening now in companies, the AI labs are moving rapidly forward with the way that these technologies work. But we have a drag in corporate because there's so much risk, especially when you take a look at industries like finance and insurance and energy. Those are very risk-adverse environments, and they're moving so slow with this technology that there's an opportunity in the marketplace for other people to jump in. And so for companies that can mitigate that risk, like you mentioned with the, Adobe Learning Manager and reducing the risk as far as hallucinations with the content, they're able to act quickly, and they're able to go ahead and move at the speed of business that's out there in the
I
marketplace.
think that is absolutely terrific. Um, if you were building an AI stack for somebody right now, what would that include?
So when I think about the stack, it's always about who is ruling the roost. And what I mean by that is it's either Microsoft or it's Google, as far as like Google Workspace. That's where you work first, because within that, you start to see the propagation to all the associates as far as how AI shows up, whether it be through Copilot or creating a Google Gem or whatever the case may be. That's where you first start. But then you go down from there and you look at knowledge management and knowledge management tools. From there, you go to human capital management. From there, you go down to LMS, LXP. You go into skill data. That's all the upper part of the stack. One interesting thing is that we're starting to see consolidation in the marketplace, right? To where if you do happen to have tools that are aligned together or platforms that are aligned together, there are some advantages to that. Now, at the bottom end of the stack, you have content repositories, you have tools that are web-based that are allowing the ability to create content at scale because agents can talk to those platforms. And then way down in the tactics, you have prompts, you have prompt libraries, you have workflows, you have automations and agents. And all these things are happening simultaneously. That's what makes it so confusing. You have movement that's occurring at the top of the stack, and then you also have things that are happening down within functions tactically because they want to advance work forward. So AI operations is incredibly important today so that everybody's on the same page.
I think, you just mentioned, you rattled off a number of different categories. And I think a lot of leaders get overwhelmed by that.
Correct.
And what is their biggest fear, do you think, with most leaders? Is it the fact that they don't know what they don't know? Or is it they feel like it's overwhelming? Or and in your experience, are there a lot of leaders, or are there many leaders who are resistant to change? Or do you see that they're eager to change, but they
I
don't know
don't
where to
think it's
go?
like
Yeah.
resistance. I think all leaders want to go ahead and move their organizations forward. Were they behind the curve when it comes to understanding AI? Totally. And even today, there are some organizations to where their leaders still don't understand AI. It's a bad position to be in. I truly believe that leaders should be AI fluent, not just literate, but just fluent, and they should understand the technology so they understand how it's going to impact their business as a whole, right? So there's that aspect of it. Um, but I think it always comes down to how do we empower our associates um, to leverage the technology securely, both with our own internal data and our own personal information, or the information of our associates, especially when it comes to HR type decisions. Uh, there's definitely a lot of talk around securing data. And for organizations that do not have their act together, massive risk, because you have individuals that are shadowy users of AI. They're using their phone, unfortunately, and just doing work. They're just trying to get their work done. But there's a risk because they could be uploading sensitive data into a model that's actually using it for training data.
What about L&D leaders in particular? Do they think it's going to take their job away? Do they see it as an assistant? How do you inspire them to use AI?
Yeah, I'm all about augmentation, but it would be very naive of me to believe that are jobs going to be impacted? Of course, they're going to be impacted. Jobs are going to evolve and change. And the question to the individual professional is, are you going to change with it? Like, are you going to go ahead and adapt and get the skills that you need so you can be a part of the conversation? You're just not blowing out in the wind. And I think for individuals that may be in the latter part of their career that may be a little tech adverse, they may not be part of the conversation. I don't think they want to be part of the conversation. They could be like, well, my time here is done. And then you have another group that are like all in. They're just like hungry and they want to know everything about AI and they want to know how this technology is going to transform the way that we impact not just human performance, but human and machine performance.
Yeah. So if you were to give somebody a 90-day plan to say, here's how to get up to speed, people may not be in leadership, or people in instructional design, or in L&D in particular, what would you say in the next 90 days, do these things? I don't know how many you would be on your list.
Yeah, the first and foremost is you have to create a personal learning plan around AI because everybody has their own way they interface with technology. Some are tech adverse, some lean in. How does that show up? Like, how does that show up for you? But you have to create just like a workout plan, in January, new year, new me. Well, guess what? New technology, new job role. Like you need to figure out what you're going to do every day, every week, and every month to expand your knowledge around AI. That's one. The other is find your community. Like you have to find people that you align with so that you can progress together. I think what's happening is that you have some individuals that are a little resistant to this change and they're with people that are on the opposite end of the spectrum and they're just banging the drum about AI and there's a rub there. Like people get really uncomfortable. And so you got to find your community. Uh, and then you're going to have to go beyond 90 days. This technology is not like a one and done, like, oh, I know how a vector database works. No, like you're going to have to go well beyond 90. And we could be like every month there is this radical shift or change that happens that changes how we do our work. So you have to be adaptable. And if you're not adaptable, that is a skill that you're going to have to go ahead and pick up.
One of the biggest things about performance is, to improve performance, is mentoring. And I heard it said that, first watch me do it, then let's do it together, and then I'll watch you do it. And so how can AI make a play on that? What can AI do to make that happen?
Yeah, we're starting to see the progression of the technology to where it was very one-sided, meaning that either the responses from the AI coach or the sales coach was canned. It wasn't bidirectional. It was flat. It wasn't dynamic, and all that's changing now. We're getting platforms now that are intelligent, that understand where you may need additional information or where you need to be challenged. And having these bi-directional sales coach or sales avatars is going to open up a world of possibilities. We also have a whole generation who's aging out of organizations. And if organizations are smart and they can capture that information, that knowledge, and it lives and it breathes inside of um, their LMS, there's massive advantages to that. Being able to take that tribal knowledge and incorporate it into a coaching or even potentially a mentorship, to where there's stages, there's challenges, there's, pushing associates forward and having it even indicate, hey, maybe it's time to even like bring a human in at this one point. We got you so far, but now you need to go talk to somebody who's, maybe edge cases or things that are outside of the scope of what the coaching and mentoring. But there's so many opportunities there, because now we can go ahead and have coaching and mentoring at scale that truly is going to have impact.
And I think Adobe Learning Manager is building that into the platform. So what a perfect place, because you have all of this rich data about a person, about the organization, about the skills and capabilities they have. So it's not a bolt-on.
Right.
It's built right in.
It's a multiplier,
Right.
if anything. So you have a personalized learning path, if we think of frontline sales. But then I mentioned earlier, like, how realities change. Well, we can go ahead and spin up a coach that's going to go ahead and address those current realities, and it's dovetailed into what their current learning path is. I mean, it is truly a multiplier moving
Yeah,
forward.
and there's all these creative tools in Learning Manager to be able to do this for the audio and video that has the quality you need, right? And that's already built in.
Yeah, and so, there has been a time where the audio wasn't there or the video wasn't there, but now we're at a point now where the experience is so realistic that, um, you're gonna be able to do so many different fascinating learning experiences with that at scale, especially if you're like a global organization and you have to not only capture that source of knowledge, but then you have 6 other languages that you have to go ahead and deliver the same experience across all your frontline salespeople of a product or a soft skill, like certain coaching techniques or whatever the case may be. That's not a reality. So that is extremely powerful to go ahead and say, hey, especially if you're a sales leader, to go ahead and say, hey, we got to show up different on a Monday, and you can make it happen.
Excellent. So as we end here, is there one place or something that somebody can do like tomorrow to get started? Is there a recommended site, or is there a recommended tool? I mean, your book, of course, right?
Right. I mean, I would just say, get your hands dirty, roll up your sleeves, sign up for access to a model. Uh, it is worth the investment to go ahead and do a paid account, like the $20 or whatever a month it is, so that you can get access to these models and get reps with it. Um, Unfortunately, many individuals, the way they access AI today is either through models that are so secure through a corporate access that they don't have the nuances and they don't have the depth of some of these foundation models, or they're accessing AI through a vendor, like a tool or a platform, and that's also limited. So being able to get access to a foundation model from one of the main labs at a paid account is time and money well spent.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. I really
Oh, hey,
appreciate it.
thanks, David. Yep,
Thanks a lot.
appreciate it.
Thank
Yep.
you.